Well, I think that it would be a difficult question to answer, to say what was my happiest and what was my unhappiest memory of childhood. I can tell you that I think my most profound memory of childhood is also my very first memory. I don't know exactly how old I was, but I know that my parents moved out of that house at 9 months old. When I was 9 months old, rather. So I can't have been older than 9 months. And that was when I say it was profound, the memory was of me sitting in my pram, my buggy, I think you call them here in the States. So I was sitting in my buggy, and I was at the edge of waste ground, which was near where we lived. And I remember the sky, it must have been a sunset. I can't imagine my mother would have had me out there at sunrise. And it was beautiful. The sky was orange and red and yellow and all shades, and it was a beautiful, beautiful sky. But on the ground there was all of this like trash and upturned shopping trolleys and broken bottles, and I just remember looking from the sky to the ground, to the sky to the ground, and having this sense, this feeling that what was up above was very, very right and what was down here was very, very wrong. But of course I was not more than 9 months old, so this was just on the sensory level. I wasn't thinking in words. It was just a feeling. When I was a little girl, and I was always winning the English essay classes when I was 6. But I was very firm about wanting to be a writer. We used to have these booklets that would, I think it was called the Book Club of Ireland, and they would come through the door about once a month. So you could buy your books this way. This was obviously pre-internet, so that's how people would order their books rather than, the bookstores. And I used to cut out the books, the pictures of the books, and I would scribble out the author's name, and I'd write my name over their name. And I used to pick, of course, the ones where I really like the images or the titles. And I had this funny little sense in the back of my head that what I was doing was somehow wrong. And it's kind of amusing to me now to realise that I recognised the plagiarism that I was up to. I just didn't know what to call it, I used to just imagine away the experience. I would just pretend that it wasn't happening. It's not for me about what people in prostitution should or should not be doing. It's about what people who actually have the privilege to make a choice should or should not be doing. And I believe that we ought to be criminalising those who pay for sexual access to anybody else, women, girls, men, whoever. I think that the act of paying to buy your way inside of someone else's body is an act of violence. I saw that everywhere I looked in prostitution. It was what I personally experienced, but it was also what I witnessed in the lives of, I couldn't even tell you how many women over the course of 7 years. So I have seen nothing to either in prostitution or in my activism that followed to convince me that prostitution is anything but an act of violence. There isn't. The only difference is the prostitute is more honest. I think that that's very much fantasy, because even if you a prostitute and you've got and I shouldn't have used the word prostitute, by the way, because it's not, at this point in my life, it's not a term I ordinarily use, because I understand what it means in a different way than I did when I was in prostitution myself. But anyway, if you are prostituting and you're earning 20 times more than a woman earns on the street, it doesn't do anything to change the nature of what's happening. It's very hard to step outside yourself and perceive yourself as others perceive you. So this is why I asked you to expand on that a little bit more, because I wasn't even aware that I presented as calm, well, I mean, am I supposed to be going around tearing my hair off and screaming all the time? Where would that get me? That's not how I feel anyway. I feel impassioned about the anti-sex trade work that I'm doing. And I'm seeing great strides and progress. And this is, it's a wonderful thing to see. I mean, we also have our battles, and we're not winning all of our battles. But I do believe we'll get there in the end. Well, some of the girls that I stood on the street corner with are dead now. and one of them I only lost as recently as last year. So I am in touch with one of the girls who was on the corner with me, and she is very supportive of what it is that I'm doing. I've had support from women who I've never met in my life who are in prostitution right now. I've had a lot of communications on social media and through email and that. From women asking me to keep going, including women who work under the decriminalised regime in New Zealand. That's been lauded all around the place as the best thing that ever happened to women in prostitution. Women from within those brothels have contacted me and asked me to keep going and to fight for the Nordic model because decriminalisation has made their lives hell. And when people hear the word decriminalisation, they think, and if they're liberal-minded people, of course they'll think, decriminalisation, that's got to be the way to go. What they're not understanding is what decriminalisation means is decriminalisation of pimps and johns. And no, that's never been a good idea for women in the history of the world. I've visited those countries too many times to count at this point, and I can tell you what's going on over there is a hellish nightmare, every bit as bad as what's happening in New Zealand. I've just come from a meeting where I expanded on that at length, and I spoke about what's actually happening on the ground in legalized regimes. We have brothels up to 12 stories high in Germany. There are 500 brothels in Berlin alone. You have floors where different specialities occur. You have menus, so the men go in and they pick from their list of menus. And you have urination, defecation, bloodletting, which is women getting caught, perverts of every type, manner and variety. You have the craziest things going on, cut price rates for the unemployed and OAPs. Criminality, it's absolutely riven with it. One of the most famous pimps in Germany has just been arrested for firearms charges, narcotics charges and human trafficking. And people tell us that where we legalise, we get rid of criminality. No, we don't. We just endorse and condone it, and we protect the pimps from the law. I personally wasn't all that offended by Pretty Woman. I know a lot of women who were, and it's important to say so. But I personally thought the film was too ridiculous to be offended by. It was kind of like... It was a completely bubble-headed fantasy, and it didn't, to me, seem to be trying to present prostitution in a certain light. It was too ridiculous. I'm a mother. My son is 21 now. I'm done having kids. I can't tell you when I may or may not be a grandmother, but I certainly won't be going back to the start at this stage with the mothering thing. I've been single for 5.5 years. I'm very, very busy. I'm a women's rights activist and I work all over the world, so I'm kept very, very busy. And I'm happy in some respects, but I won't pretend to be completely content because there are things in my life that I would like to have that are not there now. But it's equally truthful to say I'm not sure I'd have the time for them anyway. I miss the companionship of being in a relationship, truly I do. But again, if I had that right now, I would probably have it for 5 minutes and then would launch into a whole load of arguments about why I was too busy to be around most of the time. I suppose my closing argument would be to the people who feel that legalisation and the decriminalisation of pimps and johns would lead us socially to a good place. I provide the evidence from countries like Holland, where in Amsterdam they offer family trips of the red light zone where under threes go free. That's the kind of socially toxic environment that's produced underneath this decrim of pimps and johns, and I don't think that that's what most of us want in our nations. I know none of the US activists I know want it here, and we certainly won't be tolerating it back home in Ireland either.